Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Tuesday, the 18th of February. I hope you're doing well and staying warm. It is cold in Brandon, Manitoba, but it's February, so it should be. Last week, I was listening to the news coming in to work, and they were going on about Tesla and whether or not it's a good bet and what's going to happen, and the fact that even though Tesla seems to go like do really badly in performance and things like that, people are still finding it a safe bet because they still believe in whatever it is that that guy who owns it is promising. And then it morphed into the next section of the news. Just as I got to the cathedral and had to turn the radio off, was talking about the next segment was going to be about people of faith and the fact that in 1970 or something, this percentage of people in the United States all were said that they were publicly affiliated with a church, a temple, or a mosque. And in 2025, or whenever the survey was done, it was down to something like 44 or 45%, to which I was absolutely astounded that it was that high. But it got me thinking about um, wondering the question is this guy falling for faith traditions? Are the statistics telling us that we are bound and determined to be buried in the next generation or two? There's an ad on Sirius Radio that keeps going on. It's like something like the Freedom from Faith Corporation or something that is working hard to separate church and state. Which, like, okay, he's very, from somebody who's not afraid to go to hell. Awesome, good for you. You know what? I'm not afraid to go to hell either. And I absolutely do have faith. And I do believe that there should be a relationship between church and state. I do not believe that the church should be informing the state, nor do I believe that the state should be informing the church. But I do believe that the people of faith should participate in state and vice versa. And that's how we should interact. It's not about imposing a certain faith tradition on the government, but recognizing that because of the faith tradition that we have, we are called to serve. And one of the ways we're called to serve is to stand up and serve, whether it's become the mayor or get involved with town council or, become a member of parliament in Canada, things like that. I do believe that people of faith have something to contribute. I don't believe that it should be, this is what it should be, 10 commandments in the classrooms, things like that. I'm not there. But I am intrigued by this whole idea that people are, on one hand, like awestruck that, oh my heavens, like the church, the faith communities are falling. They're only 45%. And then on the other hand, the people who are like, it's about darn time. This should be falling. These people are idiots. They follow the opium of the masses. They follow these things. And really, it comes down for me. It's like, what is it we put where do we put our faith? Where do we put? Are seeing a lot of people right now putting their faith in someone who said he was going to lower the price of eggs, as the price of steel will go up, which means cars and soda pop and beer cans and iPhones and pretty much everything that we work with, construction, the prices will go up, which means the cost of eggs probably won't go down. Not that they're really connected, but yet everything is, isn't it? Or we've got these folks who are over here saying, I believe in something that I can't see. It's bigger than me, and it calls me out to be the best person I can be. The sky is falling. Egg prices are climbing. We're terrified of what might happen. People are being persecuted, and millions more are scared. Or believing in something that says you are loved. And if you recognize that you are loved, then your call in response to your faith is to love others. You see, I think where we go wrong in society, and definitely in the church world, is that we have brought too much of the world into the church. What I mean by that is when we talk about, numbers are declining. I served in a congregation, my very first parish. I was in Stratford and Mitchell, and Stratford was a small congregation that no matter what happened, it sort of stayed the same size. Couple of kids in Sunday school, Maybe once in a while a youth group activity. We'd have some funerals, but then there's some more people would join us, and it was sort of, it stayed the same. The other part of my congregation in Mitchell were all older people who, as the congregation got older and some people died, we did see some younger people. We saw a few families when I was there, and we increased our we increased our congregation, which was beautiful. It wasn't because I was some kind of charismatic priest and I was going out and beating the bushes and getting wonderful people to come and join our church. I think it was because our congregation had a real sense of being part of the community. When we had midnight mass or midnight madness downtown, where all the stores would stay open late and people would sell their stores, they put out their stuff on the sidewalk. The library would do a display outside, and our church decided to have mini golf, starting on the outside with the holes coming through the church and into the basement and back up the other side out the door for free, just inviting people in. Our congregation was willing to say to people, you don't have to be one of us to be one of us. You don't have to be a card carrying Anglican to be part of our community. And it started to work. Like, people were coming and joining us, and they were reaching out to us and asking for help. A couple of times people would say, give me a call and say, grandma died and we don't really have a church. And other churches have said they won't help us because we don't belong to their congregation. And my thing would be, okay, what do you need? Let's take care of grandma. Let's take care of you. And we started to see these people would start to come and join us. Not because we were the Anglican Church and it was the place to be, but because we were people who loved them and cared about them. And we had a good news message to share with them without shoving it down their throats. We didn't have an agenda. We simply wanted to love. Now, in that small town church, long after I left there, I'd moved on to a different diocese. They did eventually close. But that wasn't something to be lamented, because that was a community in which there was concerns about whether the schools would stay open and the grocery store and the post office. The whole community was changing. The big cities were growing bigger and getting closer to there. And the question became, it wasn't just the church that was looking at, do we have enough creative or critical mass to survive? It was the whole community saying, can we survive? And that's the reality of the church world, as we get so wrapped up in what were our numbers. And in 1967, just a couple of days ago, I was doing some work with a group for the national church, and we were looking at the statistics from 1967 as compared to 2023. And it was really quite depressing until you think about what statistics are. They are a snapshot of a way of life taken completely out of context. In 1967, the world was very different. The world, to be quite frank, in Canada was very WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It didn't look the way it looks today. So why would we say that we're comparing apples to apples and looking at 1967 and 2023 when really we're comparing apples to like steak sandwiches? Completely different context. When we think about the church and we think about, is the sky falling? Is the end of Christianity or Islam or Hindu or Judaism coming? That's not even the question that's being asked. Really, what people are saying is, can the churches stay open? Can they afford to pay their bills and keep the doors open? Well, it's my job to care. As a bishop, I want those things to happen. I want my congregations to be able to stay open and not only to survive, but to thrive. But the purpose is not that the business of the church would thrive, that we would somehow be able to break even and maybe make a little. Not at all. The reason I want my churches to thrive is because we have a message of good news. We have the love of God for all of humanity, and we should be sharing that. And as churches, with our buildings, we can do things like have soup kitchens, or we can have homeless shelters, or we can have comfortable places where seniors can come and play euchre or poker or whatever it is that people play cards wherever you're from. Places where we can all gather and recognize that we are together in this whole thing called life. The church and faith needs to not be about some kind of survival of the fittest, or some kind of, is the business of church running well? The life of the church needs to be the people. And are we serving the God in whom we place our trust? And so I would suggest that the sky is not falling, and Christianity or any of the religions are not crumbling, and we're becoming an atheistic or agnostic society. I think that in some ways we are being forced to recognize that the church or the temple or the synagogue or the mosque, it's not about business. We're not about being a business model. We have those buildings to keep us warm when we gather, to keep us protected from the elements, to have a central place to gather. What's really important is why we gather there in the first place. And while I think we might see a decline continue in the number of people who say they're affiliated with a building or a traditional faith gather group, I think what we might see if we asked a different question is there are just as many people now as there ever have been who have an affiliation with faith. It just looks different. We need to talk about it differently, and we need to stop jumping down each other's throats about what their faith looks like, and stop saying, we have to say this, or we have to say that, or you have to be this way, or you have to be that way because we're woke or we're not woke. No, it's about recognizing that every single person, whether we acknowledge it or not, places our faith in something or someone. Some people place their faith in a higher being, someone that's greater than they are, someone that calls out to them to say, if you follow me, I will help you become a better person. Some people put their faith in someone who says, if you follow me, I promise you you'll be rich, or I'll promise you you'll be understood, or I'll promise you that I'll hurt someone else on your behalf. That's not religion. That's a cult. That's following false prophets. But I think if we really got down to bare bones, to brass tacks, as they say, we might discover, if we ask the right questions, that there are millions and millions and millions of people who do have faith in someone or something greater than they are. And that's where we should be looking for hope. Not that we have to have faith in the building or the institution, which are human and make mistakes and we screw up all the time, but that we have faith in one who calls us to be better humans, calls us to a greater humanity. And that's the statistic I would like to hear talked about. Not that the sky is falling on the churches and temples and synagogues and mosques, but the sky is lifting because people are looking up and saying, we got this. We believe in a God or in Allah or Jehovah. We believe in something beyond ourselves that says we are worthy, we are lovable, and we are called to love. And we don't really need buildings to do that. In some cases, it's just easier to get organized. We just need to start thinking in terms of what the faith is all about versus what the tradition has always looked like. That makes sense? Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.